Hey Facebook, how are you today on this lovely Monday after Labor Day? After Labor Day Monday. I guess we're 2 Mondays away, but anyway, welcome to the Money School with LaShawn Holland. Please share. Don't forget to share. Why? Because friends don't let friends stay broke. That's my motto. That's why I would want to share, but I wanted to talk to you about something this evening. Because I see the trend all too often, and I'm really seeing it in the younger generation. And so I get a lot of moms, of people, young adults, Gen Zs, Gen Ys, even millennials, that ask financial questions now, and so they're very engaging with me on social media with asking me questions. But one of the things that I am seeing a lot of is how we're not really preparing our kids. Telling your child or your young adult child that they need to, get their money together is not teaching. It's not the same as instructing. It's not the same as leading by example. And so I see a trend all too often where the younger generation, they're actually lacking the vision and the foresight to plan to be independent. If you want to be independent, you really do need a plan for your independence, right? When the United States wanted to be independent from England, we came up with a plan. It may not have been the smartest plan to dump a bunch of tea overboard when they could have sold the tea, but anyway, that's another history lesson. But I'm seeing it how we're not really teaching our children how to be independent, and when they move out on their own, they just repeat the cycle of struggle. And so, a lot of times when they repeat the cycle that I'm talking about is not creating the space in their lives to be financially solvent or to be financially stable with the right strategies to have a surplus every month. We think just because they can pay their rent that they're okay, but when you can pay your rent and you're still struggling, you don't have surplus left over, that's not okay. That is repeating the cycle. And so we let our kids move out into the house, or even us, because this applies to adults. A lot of adults don't know what I'm actually teaching tonight. And so we let our kids, or we may move out and without teaching them how to plan for the expenses that they will have, or what measurements that they should have in place beforehand, so they know. A lot of times we go buy a car and we don't even know how much car we should be buying. You don't know that, even for having transportation, that it shouldn't cost you any more than 10 to 15% of, your take home pay. And so we're not teaching our kids how to be able to plan those expenses to be able to have surplus left over. And so most people don't know what a freedom-based lifestyle really looks like, yet they say all the time, I want financial freedom, or I want to be able to leave a legacy, for my kids, or I want to leave a legacy in the earth. But what does that really look like? And so most people don't define what that is. And so they think it's just money. But listen, if you don't know, if you haven't spent the time to teach your children how to be able to handle money, and not only be able to master money, but to multiply it and then be able to leverage it. If you haven't spent the time to teach them that, leaving them $1 million life insurance policy or a $2 million life insurance policy becomes careless, because what they don't understand how to maintain it or how to grow it, they'll just waste it. And so we don't work, hard to build. There's actually a book that I read some time ago. I have it on my bookshelf, but anyway, it talked about how it takes 3 generations to lose wealth. It takes a generation to make it. It takes another generation to multiply it. Then it takes a 3rd generation to lose it. Why? Because they didn't have any skin in the game, no value, and you really didn't teach them anything. And so I think it's become so much of a cliche nowadays when I hear people say, I want to leave a legacy. And oftentimes I ask them, what does that mean, or what does that look like for you? They don't know. Usually they can't even answer me. And so How will you know that you've arrived at the intended destination if you don't know where that destination is going? And we talked a little bit about that last week. And so in order for you to be able to use a navigation system, there are two things that you always need: your current starting point and your address to the place that you want to go, which is your destination. So when you go into, I know I'm dating myself, but when you go into MapQuest or you use Google Maps or even Waze, right? When you use those things and you're trying to get to a certain destination, they ask you what's your current location. And, and then you have to put in the address to where you want to go. And so, your current location, and this is MapQuest or Google Maps didn't invent this. Really, God actually did in Genesis when, after Adam ate of the tree that he wasn't supposed to eat of, God asked him, Adam, Adam, where art thou? He didn't ask that because he didn't know where Adam was. He was clear on Adam's positioning. He wanted Adam to know where he was. And so, not because, again, he didn't know, but I believe that God expects us to know, have our own compass of where we're going and where we currently are in life. And so we see how important it is to know where you are at all times. If it wasn't important, he wouldn't have asked Adam, where are you? He just would have said, look, pack your stuff and get out of the garden. And he didn't do that. He was like, look, where are you? He wanted him to be able to locate himself. He wanted to be able to use his own compass to figure out where he was. And the reason I have people, oftentimes, especially in the Abundance Attraction Intensive program that I have, I ask people in the beginning, I think it's probably like module 2, we have people track their spending, because one of the foundational wealth mile markers, like when you start to look, like if I was to run a race, right? Say it's the 15 mile or whatever. I don't run, so I don't have a clue what they are, but they have mile markers along the way. My girlfriend, Dr. Shauna Payne Gold, actually runs races and marathons. And so I remember when she first had a goal that she wanted to run a marathon, my girlfriend Eileen and I wanted to be able to support her. So I drove to Norfolk or Virginia Beach or somewhere down south where she was. And so we met her at the finish line. But one of the things that I noticed when we were walking to the finish line, that there were mile markers along the way. And so one of the mile markers that, when it pertains to money and building wealth, that wealthy people use, is they know where their money is at all times. And so that's why it's important that we get in the habit of using a spending plan so we know where our money is. And I really hope that this becomes a habit for the people that are inside of the program, because you have to become conscious at all times where you're spending your money. That way, you know instantly when something becomes a waste, right? Benjamin Franklin says small leaks sink a great ship. And so I have to say that slowly so I won't curse. Listen, you have to pay attention to where the little holes are, because the little holes can actually sink your chances of becoming financially free or becoming financially independent if you don't know. And so, are you really eating? You may hear me say it a lot, but one of the reasons why I say it is because I see where people aren't shifting. And so, do you know impulsively how much you're spending? Are you eating your wealth away at fast foods and restaurants, especially when you have debt and you're working on a plan to be able to clean up your credit? I believe people could be out of debt much quicker if they just stopped eating out so much and took that money to be able to pay down their debt. And then they're able to create the space or for a surplus in your life, create the space. We're not taught on how to create space. When we leave our parents' house and go out on our own, or when our kids go out on their own, we don't teach them how to not live on 100% of their income. And when you live on 100% or 100+% of your income, you don't have any space for surplus. And so what happens is your opportunity to be able to grow your money in different asset classes become void. And so tracking your spending really has to become a habit without hesitation. But that's not really what I'm talking about tonight. I'm talking about discipline. I think it's important that we all learn and teach our kids how to have financial discipline, because really that's what a spending plan is to help you implement financial standards in your life, so that you can get to the goal that you say that you want to be at. And I can't tell you how many people I watch from year to year, I am not exaggerating, miss opportunities to get the right tools that they need to position themselves for wealth because they say they can't afford to do anything different. And so you see them with designer purses on their arm, or you see them with Michael Kors shoes or whatever designer shoes on their feet. And to be honest, you know, when the truth of the matter really is, if they simply knew where their money was going, they could find where all the leaks were in their wallet, so they could plug the leaks to be consistent with their savings, to be consistent with their investment plans, to be consistent with leaving the legacy that you say that you want to leave. And become, the reason why it's so important to become a consistent saver is so if, for instance, if something in your house broke down, I don't have to charge it. Why? Because I've created the space to be able to put money away to pay for it. And so when I say create the space, that's what I mean, really create the room for you to be able to do other things with your money. And so I don't care if it's being able to create the space to be a consistent saver, so when the opportunity comes for you to be able to attend some form of personal development program, you're able to, or some mastermind, you're able to, or you have the funds to do so. You're not allowing those opportunities to pass you by. If you don't know where your money is going, it's hard for you to create the space for surplus. And surplus simply means what you have left over. I remember growing up, my grandfather used to always say, make sure you have something left over with your money. And so for my kids growing up, one of the things that I used to do, say my kids wanted to go out with their friends on the weekend, or they wanted to go do something, I would give them money, but if they came home with a portion of the money that they had, I would reward them. And so if I gave them $50 or $100 to go to the movie and they came home with 50, I would match the 50. If they came home with 20, I would match the 20. If they came home with 5, I don't care, because I believe anything over 0 is a plus. I don't care if they came home with $1, I would match the dollar. And so what was I doing? I was showing them that you get rewarded when you have surplus, because that allows you to be able to multiply your money. And so what I was trying to teach them was, one, to get in the habit of not spending all you had, not living off 100% of your income that you have in your hand. And hey, if I have something left over, if I have surplus left over, I have the ability to multiply the surplus that I do have left over. And so, do you have surplus at the end of the month or not? And so if yes, how are you putting it to work for you to make more money? And what assignments does your money have? I place my money on assignment. People may think that that sounds weird or crazy, but I give it instructions verbally. And one of the instructions that it has is to go bring me back more money. And so there is no such thing as magic money. There's no such thing as magic money. And so we have to understand that. And so in talking to, one of my sons this week, I was actually I wanted to show you, this is inside of the Abundance Attraction Program, which, by the way, I think everybody, I don't care what level you're on financially, I know people who are multiple six-figure earners who don't know how much they should spend on their housing, who don't know how much their utilities should be, who don't know how much they spend on a car. And they go out here and they buy too much car. They're riding around in a new Range Rover for $1,800 a month and don't even have retirement set up. Or they ride around in a $2,000 a month BMW and they don't have college fund set. They don't have a college fund set up for their kids. And so don't get hung up on the six-figure deceiver. I talk about that a lot because I know a lot of people. I've worked with a lot of people. Matter of fact, the majority of my clients are six-figure wage earners. And so just because you bring in a lot of earned income doesn't mean that you know how to multiply, and it also doesn't mean that you know how to spend. It doesn't mean that you know how to create the right expenses in your life. It doesn't mean that you understand what types of loans you should or you shouldn't have. And so I don't want you to get caught up on that. And part of the Abundance Attraction program, and the reason why I say I think everybody should get it, I don't care what level you're on, is because of the education. I built this program off of everything that I wish somebody would have told me prior to 18 years old. And I actually have clients who this year whose kids were graduating from high school, and they wanted to give them the program as a gift. And one year for Christmas, I had a guy call me who had attended one of my live events, and he wanted to be able to gift the program to his daughter for Christmas. And I didn't even know who his daughter was. And one day I dropped my daughter off at the hair salon, and I found out, my daughter walked in and was like, "Are you kin to, LaShawn Holland? You look just like her." And she was like, "My dad gave me her program and it changed my life. I was able to tell your mother I'm able to have this much money in my savings account. I'm buying my first investment property." Why? She had the proper education. So he wasn't just sending her out ignorant on what she should do with her money. But we have here a sheet that I actually give people that I think is important. Again, it's inside of the Abundance Attraction program, and it's the second module on spending plans. And so how your housing should be 25 to 35% of your bring home pay, utilities 5 to 10%, transportation 10 to 15%, healthcare 5 to 10%, food 5 to 15%. Most people, when I meet them, they spend almost 40% on eating out because they don't want to cook. Investments and savings 5 to 10%, debt repayments 5 to 10%. Most people are over the debt. They have more than 10% of their take home pay going to debt. Charitable giving 10%, entertainment and recreation 5%, and then miscellaneous or personal items 2 to 7%. And so we're not teaching our kids, this is how you do not live on 100% of your income. This is how you live to create surplus in your life. This is how you live so you can put your money on assignment. And also another thing that comes in there is the spending plan worksheet. I've made it really simple for people. Not that I'm trying to get you to go out and get this program, but for $127 a month, the education that you get on it for 12 months, I wanted to make this affordable, give you a sense of accountability, but also to teach you, listen, this is how we learn not to live. I'm shaking it like it's a gift or something. But anyway, there's no such thing as magic money. And so being able to plan or structure, money needs a plan and money needs a structure. And so plan for what you want beforehand. I remember when I was getting married, I was really young, but I was in my early 20s. I was like 22 years old when I was planning for my wedding. I got married when I was 23, but one of the things, I was planning for my wedding, but I spent the majority of my time planning for life after the wedding. And so I knew both of us, I was living with my grandparents at the time. He was still living with his mom. We needed furniture. We at least needed a couch to be able to sit on. And so we planned and we saved to be able to buy furniture, so we had a bed to sleep in. So we had a couch to sit on. We had a place to put a TV. And so we had to plan for that. And so when your children say, okay, I want to move out, over the year beforehand, prior to, you should be teaching them how to plan for stuff. So they're not moving out, putting down their down payment, putting down their first month's rent. First of all, to be honest, I would love to see them stay at home long enough to build up a substantial amount in their savings account and build up enough to be able to put down to buy a home, start a home, and then have a roommate or something where, that roommate actually is paying the mortgage on the place, so they'll have cash in their pocket. But that's another live that we can actually do on how to teach your children how to plan for that. But when I was getting married, one of the things, and I'm still like this, I've been a planner when I look back just about all my life. And so when I know it's something I want to do, I figure out, okay, what do I have? What do I need? How much does it cost? And what's my plan to get there? And so I knew if the couch that I wanted to buy was I can't even remember what we paid for back then. Say it was $800 or whatever. And I looked at the space I had until I moved in. I would divide it up to how many weeks I had to be able to put money aside to come up with that amount. I'm still that way this year. If I know I want to take a vacation and it costs a certain amount of money, I'll do one or two things. I'll create something to be able to pay for that vacation, or I make sure I plan for it. Every year, I know I'm going to spend at least, I'm not even going to tell you guys how much I spend on personal development, but I know the amount. And so I know it goes into an account specifically for that. And so that's how you create the space for it. Like, how much do you need to make it cover the cost of your new housing plus have a surplus? And so that's important that we teach that, but it also takes discipline to be able to do that. And as a society, we really do lack discipline. We lack financial discipline, and because we lack financial discipline, we change the things that we need and want, creating a pit of we don't change the things that we need and want, and so we really do create like a pit of scarcity that it's hard to climb out of. And so we act like discipline is a bad word. If you look up discipline in the Bible, Lord, if you look up discipline in the dictionary, it's not a bad word. You know, when I think about financial discipline, it really is control. Another word for discipline means control. And so financial discipline is just you having control. And it's time for us to take control and get back in the driver's seat of our money. And so discipline simply means regulation. Your money needs to be regulated. It means direction. Your money needs direction, and it means order. Your money needs order. And so money needs to be regulated, and executing a strategy, especially when it comes to money, requires a significant change in human behavior. It really does. And so part of cultivating financial discipline, it takes implementing 4 key components that I want to talk about right now. The first being focused. And so hopefully you show up at my Facebook Lives with a pen and piece of paper to be able to take notes. But the first one is focus. I'm going to give them all 4 to you. So in case we run out of time, if you go over to LaShawnHolland.com and you sign up to be on my list, I'm going to send my notes out tonight, because I know I probably won't be able to cover most of this. I have 6 minutes left on this to be able to finish, and I know I'm not going to finish. And so number 1 is focus. Number 2 is lead measures, and I'll tell you what that is in a minute. The scoreboard is 3, and then creating a cadence of accountability is 4. And so when I talk about focus, if you don't stick to your money goal, first of all, do you even have a money goal? That's the first thing. Do you have a financial goal? If you don't stick to your money goals, what's the root cause of your weak execution? We have to take time out to figure why we're not reaching our goals, and then be honest with ourselves and to stop lying. Like, one of the things that I say all the time is numbers don't lie, people do. And so what is the root cause of your weak execution? When you have a goal to do something and you say at the beginning of the year, I want to be someplace different this year. If you never execute the moves of change, then you won't change, and neither will the situation. And so what's the root cause of your weak execution? And so for most people, it's because they're not clear. You know, they're all over the place trying to do multiple things. The more you do, the less you actually accomplish. And so we haven't been taught really the power of focus. And so there will always be a birthday celebration to go to. That does not mean that I have to attend every celebration. It doesn't mean that I have to buy a gift for every celebration. It doesn't mean that I have to go out here and get into debt or get off track of my financial goals because somebody's having a birthday. Listen, somebody's born every single day of the year all over the world. And so, you know, wish them happy birthday and keep it moving. Somewhere in the world, there will always be happy hour. Listen, you don't have to go to every happy hour that's happening. That stuff starts to cost a lot of money. And we said earlier, what did Benjamin Franklin say? He said, small leaks sink a great ship. You notice how I take my time in saying it. And so listen, here, we have to teach our kids. Michael Jordan will always come out with a limited edition. Kanye will always have a limited edition of Yeezys. It's not like you never have the opportunity to get it again. It's called the client journey in magnetic messaging in business. They'll always have it. And so there will always be a new season for designers. And so you don't have to get a purse from Michael Kors for every season or a purse from Gucci for every season. So I've had the same purse now for 4 years, and I honestly don't care because I like what I have in my wallet. I like what I have in the market. And so if you keep doing the same thing, again, you're going to get the same results. And so your child won't die if they don't get the new iPhone that costs $2,000 or whatever the cost is of that new iPhone that's getting ready to come out. I actually heard it this morning on, I can't even remember the show, the podcast that I listen to every day. But anyway, I know they're getting ready to come out with a new phone, but your child won't die if they don't get it. And so focus, we have to focus on what's really important. A while back, you may or you may not, if you're new to this money school, I talk about the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F, you know, but it's a really, really good book. It is a curse word at the end, but it's an excellent book, and I love the book. And 2 years ago, my husband and I, one of our money coaches, she actually asked my husband and I, like, what do you really give a blank about? Like, write down on a piece of paper who you really give a F about. And then write down on a piece of paper that the people that are in your life that you really don't give, you know, care that much for, right? And so what are the things, who are the people, and what are the things that are keeping you from achieving your goal? And so it's a really good book. I would recommend it for you to be able to read, but I can't go deep into it right now. But you know, listen, another example is like if the sun's rays are scattered all over the place, right? But if you were to take a magnifying glass, if I was to get out a magnifying glass and take it and concentrate or focus it on a piece of paper under the sun's rays, in a matter of seconds, the piece of paper will be in flames, right? Because of the focus of the sun's rays. And so the same thing happens when we begin to focus with our money. It'll catch on. And so it'll become easier for you to be able to master your money. And so what's the one thing that you can focus on this week? The one thing that you can focus on this month? I know this goes against this whole being able to multitask theory, but listen, being scattered all over the place allows you to be the jack of all trades and the master of none. You never get to your goals because you're just all over the place. You're in so many different things instead of concentrating on finishing the one thing. And that's really important. And so you may think I'm weird, but I put my angels on assignment every day for my money. And so if you're not clear on what it is that your money's doing, if you're not clear on the goals that you have for your life personally, the goals you have for your life professionally, financially, or physically, for where your health is concerned or where your relationships are concerned, if you're not clear, it's hard for you to be able to focus. And so what's the one or two things that you can focus on consistently that will shift your money, that will move the lever the most? And so if you can't focus, your angels can't focus either. And, you know, I say this, what do you mean? You may think I'm weird, but again, I put my angels on assignment, you know, every day to be able to protect my family and protect my possessions and to be able to go out and make me more money, like bring the wealth of the world here. And so the lack of focus really magnifies the intensity of overwhelm that people feel. People feel overwhelmed in their life. I never have enough time. Yes, you do. Listen, all there is 24 hours in a day. We're not getting any more time, but you have to be able to maximize the time that you have. And so in closing, I want to make sure if you are on my list at LaShawnHolland.com, I'm going to send my notes so we can finish talking about this over on the other side. But I wanted you to be able to understand that it's important for you to focus. When you narrow down your focus, you can see what's important and what's not important. And so you know who's important in the next phase of your life when you're able to focus, to be able to move the lever the most. And then there are lead measures. And so I want you to go on over to LaShawnHolland.com if you haven't. Make sure you get on the list. And I'm actually going to send out my notes because I am at my capacity of time. I look forward to seeing you next Monday. I have something else that I want to talk about next week. So be sure to open up your email and read these notes so you can focus on what it is that you need to focus on, so you can cultivate the discipline that you need in your life to be able to pivot and to shift and change. Thank you so much for joining the Money Show with LaShawn Holland. I appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you next week.